Good morning, CLC. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this service. Welcome to March. Yay, we're here. Right now, I would like to invite our community to experience our inner healing time. While you're in your seat, or on your bed, or wherever you may be, take a few deep breaths. Breathe in cool, crisp, calming air. And with your out breath, release all that no longer serves you. Take another deep, calming breath, allowing your body to relax in this gentle, beautiful day, and allowing your mind to be present in this moment. Put your day and your week aside and let yourself be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude and saying, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Grateful for the good in your life.
Well, happy Sunday. And somebody actually emailed lamenting the end of the Basics of Science of Mind series. That's nice. So I relented, and we're going to continue that like forever, because that is what we do. This is religious science. Do you know Motorhead? You remember Lemmy Kilmister? Is anybody else into that kind of music? Okay, yeah. He used to say, we are Motorhead, and we play rock and roll. Well, we are creative life, and we do science of mind. Week in, week out, day in, day, hour by hour, relentlessly. Now on Zoom and multiple platforms, as well as here in the room. In the room and on Zoom. Room and Zoom. And you heard mention, I want to play that sometime. Think he'd let me? Yeah. He's at home, there's nothing he can do. Right now, he's stripping a gear at home right now. No, stay away from that.
He is watching and texting.
I know. But he took his guitar with him, so we can't mess with that, right? You heard mention of 30-day mental diet. This is an old covered version. Willis Kinnear was editor of Science Mind magazine for years and years, colleague of Holmes, and he brought out Holmes's miscellaneous writings after Ernest passed in 1960. This is what we're doing this month, and it dovetails somewhat with Lent. It's 30 days, Lent is 40, but you get the picture. And you can begin this anytime. Lent began on Wednesday, but you can begin this dietary experience anytime. It's a mental diet. It's a mental diet. Now, it has some distinctions with Lent, because, I don't know, the Lent experience that I got when I was coming up was that you give up things for Lent, and the minute Easter morning gets here, you take them all back. If you were eating too much or the wrong thing, or, I mean, if you're a kid, there's not too much trouble, I suppose, you can get into, but whatever bad habits or unnecessary things you had going on in your life, you could snatch them back once Christ had risen. This type of mental diet is a suggestion in the direction of permanent change. Permanent change. Why would we take our fear back? Why would we take our doubt back? There's no good reason to. You get into the feeling, you get into the experience of oneness with your source. You never want to go back. So he makes suggestions in this book for various turns of mind to head us in the right direction. These will come as no surprise to you if you were listening the last couple of months. So go right back to the basics of the teaching. There's one life, that life is source. That life is your life right now. It's all life right now. But you're not in charge of that. It's your life right now, and you are in charge of that. We're each in charge of consciousness as we maintain consciousness. And he asks the question in the book, wonderful question. He says, so, you experience stuff in life. You have your five senses that register things. You have your emotions that feel things. He says, what in you is it that does the experiencing? What is it in you that knows and knows that it knows? And the term that we have for that is consciousness. There's a consciousness in us that interprets incoming information. And that's where our control is found. That's where our management of life is found, is in how we interpret the incoming information. And then that stimulates further feelings and further sensations. The emotions can affect and do affect the body. So we interpret information in a certain way. We can make ourselves sick if we interpret it the wrong way long enough. And we're in charge of that. That's how we co-create. That's how this spiritual mystery of one life manifests as a reality for us in a useful kind of way. So we're working with this thing, as the agency, the local agency that it has for interpreting its own experience. Does that make sense? We are the way that spirit interprets its world. Now, a lot of times we think of spirit or God or the universe, whatever you want to name it, as having a way of seeing things that's more similar to ours than it really is. Because we are expressions of this one, we tend to think that everything is an expression of this one, which it is, except for the one its own self, which is beyond being an expression of itself, because it sees things as a totality. In other words, you and I count and measure things. We determine the quality of things based on these measurements. I got up this morning, I looked at my phone, let's see what the weather is. It's going to be warm today, cool tomorrow, cool for a couple of days, then warm again. It's that time of year here, you know. I knew this because I've learned how to read the Fahrenheit scale. So I know what an 80 means versus a 40 on the Fahrenheit scale. If it's Celsius, I have to think about it a little bit, you know. You remember when they tried to institute the metric system in this country? I think it was one summer they tried that. I think it was the same summer of CB radios. Are you old enough to remember CB radios? And if you were the coolest kid in the world, you had a Camaro or a Firebird with a CB antenna on it. Even if you didn't have a CB radio in it, you had the antenna. And you cruise up and down the freeway, and it was just really, well, I think it was the same summer as the metric. Let's do the metric thing, and that went. Well, so we get good at this, you know. We learn these things, and we learn to measure. When you were a little kid, you learned how to read an analog clock. Maybe you worked with a slide rule. Oh man, we're talking, that's like abacus country. That's ancient, you know. But we learn to figure stuff out. So we assume the big one, the overarching intelligence, does the same thing. And it's sizing us up. How do you stack up on a scale of, right? They start the basketball rankings in the preseason, college basketball. We're coming into March Madness now. And every week they move around because teams win and teams lose and they come out of nowhere. And you know what it means? Nothing. It means nothing until the end of the season when they have the actual tournament and they name a national champion. It's just a thing. But it gives people something to do. It's what they call these days clickbait. Clickbait. And I get sucked into these things. I can't tell you how often I've looked at the 50 best Italian restaurants in America, right? And I'm like, why? Why am I taking? Because it's clickbait. The 12 things you need to know. It's a hook. They tell us this, don't they, Lisa, David, in ministry school? They say you want an easy talk, an easy series of talks, give them points. The 5 things you need to do. Anyway, you get the picture. So we're all the time measuring and quantifying and counting and so on. And we assume that Spirit is doing the same thing. We assume that it knows that it's 40 days of Lent, and you better observe all 40 of them. We assume that it knows that it's a 30-day mental diet. We assume too much. Because all it knows is I am, and that's all it needs to know. And for all of the detail of it, it has us. It has us. We make this up. And it's not a bad thing that we do until it gets in our way. Until we think, well, I'm so many earth years old, then this is what I have left, and this is what I've left behind, you know. And this is how much money I have in my pocket or my bank account or my Venmo or my Bitcoin. This is what I have, and so this is my value. This is my value. Or this is the level of education I have, and so this is, you get the idea there too. And we assume these limitations. We take these limitations onto ourselves because of a collective social agreement that we have that is at its heart bogus. It's bogus. It's different in this country than it is in any other country where there's a different GDP and a different standard of living and a different scale of measurement that everybody holds up against themselves and everybody else. And again, if you have fun with that, God bless. But let's go back to the source to be reminded of exactly who we are. And that's what he's suggesting in this book, by way of divestment in this 30-day mental diet, is let go of some things that you don't need, some interpretive functions that you place on yourself that hold you back. This is why we hold this idealistic position of ourselves and each other in this teaching. We say to one another, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, you can do anything. We hear that coming in, and sometimes we're like, really? Me? But we are. We're all this. And we're all just now starting. We're all just now becoming, because every day's a new day. And you know what else? We have eternity. We have eternity. We have a corner that we turn when we leave this earth. But we go on in our belief from there into some new experience that is no more mysterious, really, than what's going to happen tomorrow. Except we expect to wake up in the home we went to sleep in, you know, and at the job that we have and with the people around us that we have and all the rest of it. But it's really all a great big mystery. So we trust. The 30-day mental diet is about trusting your source and doing your part in it. Each of us does our part. He says in here, each of us has a job to do. That's the page sometimes we like to go past, you know. I have a job to do. You know, where's the rewards? Tell me what's in it for me. The job I have. What's the job I have to do? Be myself fully. To be myself fully in this world. And to regulate my intake of information so as to improve my own mental health, emotional balance, relational stability, and ultimately creativity and joy. To measure what I take in. Now, we've talked about this next point incessantly, especially over the last 2.5 years, about the volume of information that we get. The COVID count. How many people got sick yesterday? How many people passed out of this life yesterday? The body count in these wars, particularly the one we all have on our minds today. The economic function. There's another one. You want to read about the 50 best Italian restaurants in America, read about the 50 that just closed, you know. And so we have all of this information coming in that presents itself to us to be administered in some way. You are a minister of information. You have the ministry of information in your own life, where you get not only to decide how to feel about these things, but how to express how you feel about these things in the world. And it's overwhelming, because we don't have answers. We don't have answers of what's going to happen next. How is all of this going to play out? How is all of this going to end? We don't know. And it gets in the way, because we have a job to do. And the job is to show up at the stuff that you've promised to show up at and do the best you can with that. To do the best that you can with that. And people in Ukraine are packing lunches for their kids. People in Ukraine are figuring out how to get bottled water and how to do what needs to be done. They can't afford the luxury, if you want to call it. There was a great book, is a great book called You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. They can't afford the luxury of dwelling on where is all of this heading in the big picture. Because they've got kids to feed and they've got jobs such as they are to go to, and they've got plans to make about whether to go or stay. Now, maybe you're not in that level of crisis mode in your life, and I certainly hope you're not. But you got a job to do. We all have a job to do, which is to show up and keep the faith. Show up and keep the faith, doing the thing that needs to be done. I saw Danielle yesterday online. I wish I could have been there in person to see what you were doing, because that sure looked good. But children's books, let me give a shout out to Children's Books on Wheels, Rita Wiltz, and the amazing work that she does. It goes way beyond children's books, way beyond being on wheels. As a community advocate, an activist, an assistant, particularly in the Tamina community, there's a job to do. No matter how you or I feel about things, people wake up hungry, and they need to be fed. People wake up confused, and they need to be reassured. People wake up in doubt and fear and skepticism and all manner of things. And they wake up in joy, like I hope we did today. So, the 30-day mental diet is a protocol of regulating your intake of information, and particularly how you deal with it. Have you ever had a food allergy, let's say, where you knew that if you ate this thing, you were going to itch, or you were going to twitch, or maybe you were going to retch if you ate this thing. But God, it looked so good. And here it is. And it's a party. And here's a plate of it. And you don't want to offend whoever's handing you this thing. Okay? Well, you learn there was a cause-effect relationship going on there, and it didn't serve you in the long run. Well, have you ever had a body of information that you knew was going to make you sick, but you still had to read about it and hear about it and think about it? So you punish yourself with it. Sometimes we punish ourselves with this stuff. We hit ourselves over the head with it. All the suffering in the world, all the misery of humanity. I have a song to recommend to you from the old days. Maybe we can do it here sometime. It's by Todd Rundgren. Okay? And it's got a line, and the song is called Only Human. I see phones coming up and keyboards lighting up as I say this. Only Human, Todd Rundgren. He peels the paint in the singing of this song. And at first listen, you're going to think, well, this is really negative. But it isn't. He says, we're only human, mere flesh and blood, trying to get by without someone to hold us up. And it's got a reassurance to it. He says, look at the world. Did you ever see so much misery? And yet, we're in this together. We're doing something together. Never doubt if a negative thought or a thought pattern is an unaffordable luxury, never doubt the difference that a positive thought and series of positive intentions can make in the world. Never doubt this. I have long believed that if Jesus, whom Lent is about, because it really commemorates, it's taken out of chronological order. It really commemorates the 40 days that he spent in the wilderness trying to figure things out. And also we're told facing temptation to give up on himself and to give up on his mission because of the suffering in the world and the enormity of his mission. I have long believed, maybe I'm wrong, but that if he did nothing after those 40 days, but stay low and make cabinets with his dad. This is actually, they say he was a carpenter, but now they think the translation is actually cabinet maker. So if he stayed low and made cabinets with his dad and never pulled in 12 disciples and never hit the road and never became a celebrity in his time, that if you or I had never heard of him, and all of Christianity as we know it had never occurred in this form, I still believe that he would have changed everything because of the vision that he had. But he had to give voice to it. He had to bring in some assistance for when he would pass. And somebody or several somebodies took some notes and then embellished them later and gave us the gospel accounts that we have. But if all of that had just remained in secret, he still would have had. Well, if that percolating consciousness of his, behind the scenes there, that was just giving off light right and left, was happening then, I like to believe it's happening now. And not just through the spoken word and the teaching of things, the didactic approach of information being passed along like I'm doing with you right now, but also, or maybe more so, in the private moments of stillness and oneness that we have where we commune with our source and we come back saying, yes, there is one life. There is one life, and that life is my life, and that life is all life right now. And somehow, you know, like in the Disney movies, the cartoon animals in the forest, they hear something and their ears perk up, right? And they sniff something on the air. I think across the world, people are like, what? What was that? You ever have a moment like that? Where suddenly, you know, we hear all like waves of nausea, but suddenly you have a wave of good feeling come over you out of nowhere. Undeserved, unearned. Nothing has changed. But it's like the ionization of the air in the room has just reversed, has just shifted. And all of a sudden you feel good about yourself. I like to think that that's somebody, a bunch of somebodies putting out positive intentions, and you've stepped into the path of that somehow. Stepped into the wavelength of that. They used to tell us about radio, you know, how radio waves are coming through. And if you had a receiver right where you are, you could pick up these signals. Of course, we had radios, you know, that were built for that particular purpose. There was a radio station. They had this on the history of country music thing that Ken Burns did. There was a radio station in Mexico that was not limited by the FCC in terms of its wattage, and it ran, I don't know, 200,000 watts or something of blasting out Patsy Cline and Lefty Frizzell and whoever into the South Texas night, and people were picking this up on barbed wire fences and in the fillings in their teeth. Isn't that great? Well, there's something, it's great if you like country music, I guess. Otherwise it'd be kind of maddening, you know. But there's a spiritual broadcasting going on. Holmes talks about this in Living the Science Mind, that you are a spiritual broadcasting station, but you're also a receiving station for all of this. So never doubt that these positive intentions that spread out from us make a difference. Never doubt that prayer makes a difference. It might not make a difference in exactly the way you think it's going to, in the timing that you think it's going to. For answers on that, see what I just said about measurement and counting and the determination of specifics. I don't know that I'm going to get exactly what I want in the size package I want, delivered on my doorstep at the time I want. If I did know it that specifically, I wouldn't need to treat. It's basically an Amazon order, you know, right? Instead, what happens is I get to grow into the thing that I want. And I'm never the same person. I'll come back to this next week because this is a fun point to consider. You're never the same person when you demonstrate that you were when you treated. You're never the same person when you manifest as you were when you sent out the intention or internalized the intention. Why? You grow to meet the thing. You grow to meet the thing. Hope ends in fruition is I think, Shakespearean way of saying it, but you move from a place of wouldn't it be great if to of course. Of course. And the price that you pay when you hit of course is you lose a little bit of the excitement of wouldn't it be great if. But once you linger for a little while at of course, a new wouldn't it be great if comes up to move on from there. Wouldn't it be great if we had a spiritual center? Wouldn't it be great if you were in it? Wouldn't it be great if the person who's driving by right now who sees our sign and thinks, I'm going to look up these people sometime, like a number of you did, like I did in a previous place, Wouldn't it be great if the circle were wider? Wouldn't it be great if we had, hey, I know, says Marissa, 2 weeks ago? I know. Why don't we gather on Sundays? And we don't have to have like casseroles and this whole big heavy kind of thing. Why? Because it's Lent. We should strip it. She actually didn't say that, but we should pare it back a little bit, Be a little more restrained on this. Wouldn't it be great if we all got together for an hour after the service and just looked at each other and just schmoozed? Because we've been little icons on a screen for so long only. And those of us who choose to come out on a Sunday morning, we'll intend that more of us who feel comfortable join us here because we got 200 chairs in this room. And we fill them up, and we'll do a second service again like we used to, and we'll fill them up. We'll keep filling them up, and if I run out of oxygen, we got plenty more people to speak. And off we go. Wouldn't it be great if? And so you arrive at, of course, and you move on into wouldn't it be great if. That's the 30-day mental diet. So what I encourage you to do, this is not a nagging diet. This is not a pestering diet. This is not a shaming diet at all. The next piece of information that comes your way, ask yourself, do I want this in my body? Do I want to ingest this? Is this good for me? And it won't rot on the plate, so if I haven't decided yet, I can leave it, just sit there, put it in the spiritual icebox. I'm making this up as I go along, you realize. All sorts of food metaphors. But I don't have to decide right now. The thing will keep. I can revisit it later. Sometimes it's better later in the day. It's just like the food that you actually eat. Do you want Wheaties at 6 o'clock in the evening? No, maybe you'd rather have spaghetti then. Wheaties maybe fit in the morning, or maybe that's just a story. And you can eat whatever, like chicken and waffles. You can combine dinner and, right? That's a thing now. You can combine dinner and breakfast. So maybe there's a time, a better time to take this in. I'll deal with this, you say to yourself, when I'm stronger. I'll deal with this after I've done my prayer work, after I've done my spiritual work, after I've gone to spirit. Then I'll pick up the news headlines of the day and decide how to feel about them. Let's know together now, there is one life, one power, one presence, pure spirit. It's all there is, just one. It's all there needs to be, because it is all encompassing, all embracing. It covers creation. It covers the realm of possibility and potential beyond form. And I am the experience that this one is having in this world at this time by means of me. I'm the experience that love is having. I'm the experience that forgiveness is having. The experience of compassion. It's easy for me to be this. It's my nature. I choose simply not to interfere with it any longer. I choose to modulate and modify that which I take into my consciousness, because I am a powerful, capable, creative being whose consciousness manifests in form. And I use that faculty with great discernment. Never fear, but great discernment. I still maintain a sense of humor because life is funny. It is ironic. It is beautiful. I maintain a sense of hope because there's an ideal in me that will not go away, of a world that works for everyone, of peace not as a static condition, but as boundless creativity, invention, discovery, and construction in form of things that amaze you and me. I'm so grateful for this ability to discern what to think and how to feel. I'm so grateful for the fact that when I put thought and feeling together, they equal belief. So grateful that this belief can move mountains or cause them to be interpreted in such a way as to no longer be an impediment. So grateful for this experience of springtime starting to bloom all around us. As a reminder always, we may begin again from where we are, for this knowing and its manifestation all around us. Gratitude fills me up, and I release this knowing now into the creative process of the universe, letting it be so, and so it is.
So it is.
This next piece I'm going to play is a hymn. It was written by Martin Luther. It is a Lutheran Lenten hymn, and it was written in 1541, and it's called "The Glory of These 40 Days."
Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I hope everyone enjoyed that as much as I did. Before we come to giving time, as our ushers make their way to the back, I would like to know, is there anyone here for the first time today? Please raise your hand and let us know. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Please hang around. Our practitioner Marissa is going to give you a special little gift from us. Thank you, and we hope you come back. And to everyone else in the room, thank you for being here again. We love to see all you smiling faces. And if there's anyone online that's here for the first time, please let us know that as well. You can give us a message in chat, you can send us a message through Facebook Messenger, or you can email us at info@creativelife.org and just say hi. We would love to know that you're here as well. And for everyone that's online and you're back, thank you for being back. We love that you're back as well. And now we come to giving time. I want to thank each and every one of you for your presence here, for your loving energy, and for all of your monetary gifts. It's because of you and what you give to us that we can be here for you. So thank you. We really appreciate it. And I invite you now to say with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
I think I'm ready to release you out into the world. And before I do that, let's get our pray on one more time. Let's know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. One love that encompasses, envelops, surrounds, runs through, expresses as each and every one of us. It is in this love that all things are possible. And spring is coming. Yeah, I saw that 30 in the forecast, but the trees know it. Some of the early trees are already pushing buds out and pushing blooms out. I keep seeing flashes of pink and splashes of that yellow-green of early spring. So ideas are coming forth. Let go of who you have been to become who you can be. It is springtime. Let yourself stretch and grow in that spirit which is infinite, in that love which is never ending. Let that love inform you of who you are. Let that love show you God's idea of you. And anything that is not God's idea of you, let it go. Bring forth those blooms, bring forth those new leaves, bring forth that new idea of you in love. Stretch out into that sunshine and enjoy. And I know this love, I know this springtime, I know this growth in infinity, in infinite love. And I am grateful for it. I am grateful for this teaching. I am grateful for this place. I am grateful for these people. I am grateful for our ministers, our musicians, our practitioners. I'm grateful for each and every one of you that come and sit in a seat or turn on that computer to see what we've got to say and to carry this word and this message out into the reaches of infinity. And I release and I relax and I know that it is so. And so it is.
So it is.
Say it with me now. Something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my
I
mind.
feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
And so it is.